Hey babes, okay, so this is Casey Lynn. I am going to be doing a mani using the new liquids, Ready, Set, and Shine. I'm also going to be using the colors Moonlit Masquerade, which glows in the dark, Flashlight Frenzy, which also glows in the dark, Electric Heart, and White Elephant. So I've already done one hand, but I'm going to do the other hand and just show you all how to use the liquids. I know there is a little difference between using the old liquids and the new liquids, so we're just going to talk about that as we go along. But essentially, the new liquids were created for less contamination and a longer application purpose. There are a few steps that you have to do a little bit differently, but for the most part, the gist is still the same. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna get my camera set up, and I'm actually doing them over a peel base. So I did use the Peppi Peel base over my this is actually, what color did I use? I used Solar Flare, which is translucent with a orangish red glow. So I like to have that little bit of glow under my colors that don't necessarily glow. So anywho, so I've already done my tips and my peel base, and everything is set and ready to go. So give me a second and we'll get started. Okay, so since I'm a little messy, I always do my glitters last because otherwise my glitters end up everywhere. So I'm going to start with the Moonlit Masquerade, and I do the pour over method, so I prefer to use the little cup, muffin cups. So, and I'm going to use another one of these so I can prop my nail up. I'm going to try to stay in frame. So with the liquids, as always, you want to make sure that you're going in very thin, smooth application. You don't want to go too heavy, and of course you want to avoid your cuticle line so as not to flood the cuticle, but also so you get those nice smile lines. So, but yeah, nice thin layers. You don't need a lot. It sticks really well. And I know some people clean up after they put their powder on. I tend to clean up my liquid before I put my powder on, especially when I'm using certain colors because it feels like they never come out of my skin if I don't. So anyway, and then like I said, I always do the pour over method. You can do whatever works for you. I just find that when I pour over, I don't have to do as much buffing and dipping. Buffing and filing. And one thing I have noticed is when I use peel base, I do get these little areas where, because peel base has to go over something shiny, it tends to give me like little gaps and whatnot, which is fine. Again, another reason why I always go with very, very thin layers. So that way when I go back in, I can make sure to cover up those areas really well. But yeah, that always happens whenever I use a peel base. If I don't use the peel base, I never have that issue. So I think it's just the shiny. So let's go in with a second coat here. And then, as you know, you can do 2 or 3 coats. It's up to you. I like, for my glow in the dark colors, I like using 3 coats because I really, really like to make sure I have glow because I am a giant toddler who has to glow in the dark. So, and as you can see, that little area is now covered up and it's like it never even happened. So I'll give it a second. And like I said, I'll still go in and clean up the cuticle area, but usually if I do it when I do the liquid, I don't have to go back in and do that. So, and then go on with my brush. And I'm just going to do a third layer just because. And again, I try to go as thin as possible with my layers. I don't like my nails very thick. I also don't personally do the apex method. Some do, which cool. I don't necessarily like that shape or that style on my nails. I like my nails to be a little more flat and natural, because my natural nails are very flat, so I don't have that natural curve like some people do. So you'll see other people use the apex method where the first layer or two they start here or just right in the center and then go around and add more color, but I do not. So both ways are right, neither are wrong. So I go in, last bit of color on this nail, and one thing I always try to do whenever I'm working with multiple colors is completely close my jar when I go to switch colors, even if I'm going to come back to that color for whatever reason, because I am very accident prone and I will spill it everywhere. So my next color is going to be Flashlight Frenzy. So we're going to go in. And also something I do, since I'm doing individual colors one at a time, I will actually go in now, since the number 2 does take a little extra time to cure. I just go in immediately now and put it on this nail. And remember, with this new number 2, you want to make sure you saturate the nail pretty good. So I'll usually just do 2 coats. And close it back up tight so I don't knock it over, because I'm me. So anyway, okay, so now we're going to move on to the other finger. So that one's already starting to cure and dry, so it just saves me a little time. You can do all of them at the same time. It's not really a big deal. Either way that you do it. So now I'm just going in on my next finger with the number 1. And again, that really, really thin first coat. Just getting it on there, and my little cupby cup. And again, I have a couple of those little gaps. I'm trying to see if I can get it in focus so you can see, but I have a couple of those little gaps from the shiny portion of the peel base. So again, why I go in nice and thin, brush, and then, okay, now you can actually see it right there, and then right there. So again, we'll just go in, actually, let me use this one, it's a little bit lower, okay. So we'll go back in, and our number 1. We'll make sure we get all those little areas that we might have missed before. I also have really shaky hands because of nerve damage, so that's another reason I take my time with it. But if you see the shaking and everything like that, that's why. So apologies. Sorry, not sorry. That's who I am. Anyway, so second coat is on. Now let's do that. Again, if you choose to, to dip your fingers, I'll do that with the glitter, the white elephant, when I go to use that one. I just find I get a smoother application with my solid colors when I do the pour over. So, and I already file and buff like a crazy person, so the less I have to worry about doing that, the better. So another little trick I've picked up is whenever I do go through with my Q-tip, I always go back in and just kind of push down so I don't have like a jagged edge. It's still kind of smooth, if that makes sense. So, and then again, just go one more trip for my third coat. And make sure we get the sides. Because I use that clear or that opaque at the bottom, I just want to make sure that I'm actually covering everything with color. I don't want too much of my undernail showing. Okay. And then I think I got a little on my finger, so let's clean that up. And then, all right. final coat of my yellow. And then do that. I don't know if you can hear, hubby's in the bathroom blowing his nose and he sounds like a little trumpet, so you're welcome. It's usually extra entertainment that I charge for, so you got that for free. You are so welcome. All right, so brush. And then again, I go in with my number 2. So the time starts now on the time that it needs to sit instead of having to wait until, so that's why when I do my nails one at a time, it's a little bit easier because this part is already done by the time I get back to that nail, back to the nail. Everything has already been done, as opposed to doing all of them, then putting the number 2 on all of them and then sitting there like la 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 la. So multitasking / ADHD work. So if you know, you know. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to, I'm gonna go to our pointer and same thing. So what are some colors you all are excited for the summer? I'm really curious. Any combos or any colors that you're really excited to use this year? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. This is actually my Pan Pride set, hence the pink, yellow, and blue. I do this combo every year in June, and I absolutely love it. Well, not the exact colors, but I always do some variation of my pink, blue, and yellow, and then a nice sparkle on my other fingers. So, but curious what colors you all doing for the summer. I love this pink. I'm not even a pink girl, but this is just such a neon-y, electric-y pink, and it makes my heart happy. It's perfect for summer. So we are finally getting warmer weather out, and that makes me happy. Go to the beach. Get all my glow on. It's great. All right, let's get this covered up. And here. Okay, and now again, go on with layer 2. And okay, and then one more. So normally, with this particular color, I would only do 2 layers. But since I did 3 of the 2 that glow, I'm going to do 3 so they're like the thickness is even as well. So go back one last time with our number 1. And again, make sure to get the side. And sometimes I had to hold the skin on the side of your fingers. So that's what I'm doing on this one. I don't know about you all, but I have a couple nails that for whatever reason grow super crooked. So I gotta do all the crazy work to make them look even sometimes. So, but that's okay. Our imperfections make us perfect. So, perfectly imperfect. Right, so I'm going to put this one to the side and brush. I see a little area right there it needs to come. I'll get that in the filing stage. Filing and buffing. Okay, so then we do our number 2 on this one. And I always, like I said, I try to get 2 good layers of that on there. Okay. And then we are going to one of my favorite Peppi colors of all time, White Elephant. I literally have like 4 or 5 of these because when I was afraid they were going to stop selling them a couple years ago, I overdosed on them. And someone is asking for his nip nip. His nip nip o'clock in the house. All right, let's see. Okay, so now I said I was going to do this one a little bit differently. Instead of pouring over, I am gonna dip straight into the jar with this. Like I said, I like doing that with some of my glitters and some of my hollow flake dips, just because I find that I get more of the glitter and the holographic pieces onto my nail when I dip in rather than pour over, because sometimes when I pour over it feels like just the powder is sticking to the nail and not all the glittery good stuff. So yep. And then whenever I use a glitter, I always just pat with my finger. You can use the rubber end of like your tweezers or something like that if you prefer. I just tend to do this, and yeah, that's really it. And then I always forget, but I remembered this time, use a different brush for my glitter so I don't get glitter all in my solids brush. And then do our second coat here. And again, even this missed a couple little spots because of the peel base. Well, not missed a couple spots, but a couple of the spots receded. So just go in again. And then pat, pat, pat. So there we go. And then I'll do one more. Oh, hold on, got a little mistakey in there. So there we go. And again, one of the beauties of this newer #1 is it's a little more forgiving when you need to correct or go in and fix a little mistake. So I haven't used #1 as a nail glue like I used to with the old ones, only because I ended up getting a new glue that I really love, because more times than not I use sensitive liquids on my hands, or I'll use the dip gel method. So I don't get to do this very often, but okay, so there we go. And then, so our last little push, and I have one piece of glitter that's just way too big that I don't care for, so I'm just going to pop it off. Did I mess that up? Okay, there we go. I did, but like it never happened. See? So I was able to, I made a little dent in it when I was taking that extra piece of glitter out, but I was actually able to just tap it back down because the #1 is so forgiving right now. And then, since that was our third coat, just gonna go in with my #2, soak, and make sure it's in there, and wipe your brush. And then we're gonna go into our thumb, also with white elephant. So okay, and then again, just going straight into my color with this one. Let's coat one. Okay, had a couple little gaps, so we'll fill those and make sure those get covered. But also just make sure everything's pressed down. Perfect. And then this is such a pretty color. Just a nice, silver white base with the prettiest rainbow glitter and really small, like micro hollow pieces. So I love this color, especially in the sunlight. It shimmers so magnificently. I don't even use words like magnificent. Okay, so anyway, let's get rid of that little guy right there. And again, pat, pat, pat. And as you can see, I have glitter everywhere, so when I do my nails, I usually use paper towel instead of my glitter mats because I have to wash them after almost every use because I get powder everywhere. I'm messy. But that is okay. The main thing when you're doing this is have fun. Like, this is your time to, spend time doing something fun, creative, and you're loving on you. So, a lot of times when I'm doing this, I usually have a podcast or audiobook going, and I'm just listening as I go along. I used to try to watch TV, but then I'd end up taking like 8 hours to do my nails because I get so enthralled in whatever's going on the screen. So, yeah, just podcasts and audiobooks now while I'm doing my nails. But, what are some things that you all like to do when you're doing your nails? I'm really curious. All right. So that is on. Try to tap off the excess. Close you back up. You have caused enough glitter damage for the evening. Glitter everywhere. All right. And one last tap tap. And then my number 2. Okay. Now my number 2 I'm finished with, so I will put it back. My number 1 I'm finished with, so I will tighten it and put it away. And so we started with this nail, and it's definitely been more than 1 to 2 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and file and buff. So bear with me. I'm actually going to move my hand out of the camera view for just a moment because I need to put my nails right up to my face in order to file. So I apologize. But essentially, I'm doing the sides with my file. The sides I shape, and then I go across the actual nail with my buffing block, so as not to remove too much of the color. And again, when I go in really thin layers and I use the pour over method, there isn't much shaping or anything like that I need to worry about. So another reason I love using the pour over method as opposed to dipping in. For whatever reason, when I do dip my fingers in the pot with solid colors, I tend to have a lot of lumps and bumps, and that just doesn't work for me. So I already spend way too much time filing as it is. So. And then I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have a couple of nails that are crooked. So I use the art of illusion when I do my filing to make them look as straight as possible. I had a incident with a ladder going up to a pool slide when I was about 11 or 12, and ripped my finger from here down to here and half my nail off, and when it grew back crooked. So we deal with what we got and keep it moving. But yeah. And then one of my nails, it's crooked. It has no excuse whatsoever. So that one is just perpetually on punishment. And some people do go in with their with the clear and do a clear layer before they do any before they put their number 2 and do any filing and buffing. I don't all the time. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I honestly just don't. So that is an option if that's something that you want to do, or if you're, especially if you're using chunkies or chunky glitters or just any type of chunky polish, chunky dips, so whether they're glitter or not. So once I've gotten them straight the way I want, I'll go in and use my buffer just to make them nice and even. Remember, when you're using your buffer, the plain side that has no grit on it, that's the side that goes closest to your skin, so that way you're not filing your skin off. Because sometimes you'll notice people have like really raw cuticle areas, and that tends to be from either over clipping during the nail cleanup stage or nail prep stage, or they have filed their skin into oblivion, and that is just not healthy for your skin. I am not a nail tech by trade, but I have been an esthetician since 2008, so I know skin health, and you want to try to be as nice to your skin as possible, especially on your cuticle area, because A, some of the most delicate skin on your body. B, we put it through so much when we're doing our nails. So whether you're filing or using products, whatever, all of that stuff is already something our skin doesn't care for. So let's try to do it in the nicest way possible and make sure we're taking care of our skin as much as we can. So try not to overfile the skin and try to be careful. I know everybody's on this Russian manicure thing where they want their cuticles cut back to nubs, but your cuticle is there for a reason. It's a protectorant between your nail and inside of the like literally under your skin. So the cuticle is that barrier. So if you get rid of it completely, it can't do its job, and you're more prone to infection, sensitivity, allergic reactions, whole host of things. So try to go easy on your cuticle area, and try not to fall too much into some of the trends that you see. It may look quote unquote neater, but it's not necessary. Trim back, reasonably, but try not to trim too much when you're trimming back your cuticles. And I'll get off my soapbox about that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, and almost finished here. All right, just a light buffing. Buff. I always go in with, well, it's labeled here, but I use a mister for my alcohol, but I do personally use 99% alcohol. Because 99% alcohol tends to evaporate better. Well, it's the best for evaporation, but yeah, I always go in, use that to get any dust or anything like that out of the sidewalls. And there we go. And all right, now we are ready for our number 3, which is going to be our top coat. Oh, hold on. Almost. I'm not happy with one of the nails. I'm just going to file it a little bit more. Okay, and since I went over it again, let's go back. So I noticed for the number 3, it helps to make sure you've gotten all the excess dust out, which is why I go personally in with the alcohol. The number 3 is a little more finicky than the old one, I'll give you that. However, when you use it and it's done properly, it works wonders and it has a great shine. So we're going to go in, but also, again, helps, new formula helps prevent contamination, as well as gives you a little leeway on anything that you want to do, like any mistakes or anything like that. So again, you go in, I always go in very thin layers. You want to make sure you cover your entire nail. And cap your edges. So again, really thin layers. Not a perfect job today, but I use peel base because I'm going to change it probably in a couple of days. So, but there we go. Another option, if you don't want to use the number 3 at this point, you could put a base coat of gel polish on and then go over it with the diamond gel top coat or your no wipe top coat. Just remember that you want to use your base coat first, since you're switching from dip liquids to gel, and you want to go in and make sure that you, and of course you want to make sure that you're curing them for about 60 seconds between each layer. Because if you use your no wipe or diamond gel and forget the base coat, it will peel. So I learned that the hard way. I didn't realize I needed to do that, and I had peely nails within like a day or two because there was no base coat, so there's nothing for the top coat to stick to. So don't be me. Okay, and so once I get one good coat on here, I am being stared at by a little demon. He's about 18 pounds, probably 19 now, and he's waiting for me to give him more treats that he's not getting. So now that I've done that, I'll go in just a second time, again with a very, very, very thin layer. So I get that really good shine. And I just realized I don't think I capped my ends on any of them, but the first one, I always forget to do that. Again, don't be me. So go in, cap, cap, cap. And you can already see it's starting to dry. When I do it only one coat, it's like more of like a matte looking coat at first. So I always like to go in with a second really thin layer of this. So go in and let's not hit our, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually using one of our Peppi cups, Peppi tumblers as my tripod because my tripod broke on me and it's lame. So Peppi tumbler for the win. All right. Oh, let's see. Cap, cap, cap. And I think I forgot to cap, cap, cap again. I always forget to cap. And then last one, go in. And get a nice pretty shine. But again, really thin layers and you'll get that really great shine. If you go in too thick with it, it's not going to dry properly, and it's going to either stay tacky feeling, or when you go to swab it off with alcohol, it's going to get messy and or cloudy. So use just like I did. Go in once, really thin layer. Go in twice, really thin layer. And now we just let them sit for about anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Since I did do 2 coats, I'll usually let it sit for the full 5 minutes. I'm not going to make you sit here for 5 minutes with me, so bear with me and I'll be right back. Mid-dry check-in. They are looking pretty nice. Got about another 2 minutes to go. What'd you say? Okay, and we are back to just do the final step, which I always do is, again, with the alcohol and my paper towel. I'll be right back. I'll put it back on camera in a second, I promise. All right, and we are all set. So got a nice shine, and yeah, so that's it. And I will see all you babes later. Bye.